So apparently Helldivers 2 has done something good, I guess. I don't know specifically what it is. I just know I've seen articles and stuff like saying good things about them. I guess we'll find out what it is they've done right now. I know in the past they've caught a bunch of flack for stuff they've done in the past. Most of that was just kind of revolving around Sony's decision and not allowing that in certain regions, and that kind of pissed a lot of people off because it gatekeeps a lot of people from a game, and even I know that that's a terrible fucking thing to do, and it's just out of pure greed or whatever reason. I know Sony's always come up with bullshit reasons as to why they can't do it, and there's really no reason why they can't. So plain and simple. And when they talk about, oh, it's a pricing issue and this currency in this place is different, that's bullshit, because there's plenty of indie developers that can do regional pricing way better than most of these bigger companies. So, but we'll see what he has to say about it.
Well, I hope only adults are watching, because today we get to talk about a dirty word, and Helldivers. The dirty word is FOMO. It's the fear of missing out. It's the engine that's powering gaming's worst impulses. Your gated skins, your timed purchase opportunities, your limited battle passes that expire and just have all your value in your purchase disappear away into the wind. It's all stuff designed to manipulate players into spending time and spending money. But here's the thing, right? In some recent weeks, we've seen something different. We've seen a game where FOMO is actually the point, where, quote, never available again is exactly why people played. And an example where it actually...
FOMO is one of those things that I personally feel that while it might keep your more like your dedicated fan base, like really getting into the game and want to stay and play and whatnot. But if you're like, say you find a new game that's been around for a while and you've heard all this good talk about it and you're like, oh, I'm going to try it out. And then you get into it and it's like you've missed out on all this stuff in the past because it was limited or FOMO related. And now you're getting into the game, or now you're getting into it. You've missed out on so much. So what's the point? And it can also act as like a gatekeeping kind of mechanism. And I don't agree with any game that adds like limited time skins or whatever. Like if you don't get it during this month or whatever, it's gone forever. It's so ridiculous because, I mean, you wouldn't do that with any other type of like business model or anything like that. It's like going out and buying a car and, oh, hey, this car, if you buy it during this special or whatever, we give you these shiny, cool rims with antennas or whatever, And then somebody goes to the dealership 2 days later after it ends and they're like, oh, well, I seen this. Oh, we're not doing that anymore. You missed out. You don't see that. So it can keep people or it can keep people from the game.
Had nothing to do with spending money. Because I suppose in its most pure sense, FOMO could be applied to a really good game of poker with your friends that, you don't want to miss out on because it could be really fun. That natural sense where the FOMO is because something's actually good, and the thing that makes it good is the fact that it's not completely deterministic. Though, in this case, there's a few funny things on that. And here's the rub. More than 3 million people played Helldivers 2 during one single special week. And the reason why is that nobody wanted to miss out on actually being part of the story. Usually when we talk about FOMO, it is about overt manipulation. It's about companies trying to grab your time, grab your money. And the last time we talked about Helldivers, it was literally FOMO for that exact reason. It was when they'd added the Killzone crossover weapons and cosmetics. They were only available for a week, they were at a cost higher than normal, and the reaction was fair.
Sony needs to bring back Killzone, like no questions asked. It would be huge. A lot of people love Killzone. Now, the last one they made, shit show. It's a terrible fucking game. They just need to go back to original, like Killzone 1 and 2 kind of style game. It'll be amazing. Like, it can be amazing. But they've kind of like given up on some of their older IPs like that. And now they're just trying to push the more current ones. And I think it's a terrible decision, personally. And I know a lot of people that feel the same way. That's just my 2 cents. I used to play the shit out of Killzone when I was a kid, and in high school and whatnot. And I would have friends that we'd come over and we'd just have, little LAN parties and shit. And Such a good game. That's just the nostalgia kind of creeping its way back up. So I'll just stop there.
Fairly clear. People rebelled, they were angry. So what did Arrowhead do? Well, they ended up giving a second wave of content out for free, essentially a Christmas gift. And they also announced plans to revamp the in-game shop.
Oh, how nice.
Basically, they wanted to avoid that type of thing never happening again. And those plans actually just came true. That's because the latest update puts most time-limited gear in a regular store. That means that you can just buy it whenever, which is obviously good news. It's a company moving away from unfriendly monetization, and that deserves celebration. But today's FOMO story is actually a different one. This comes from Helldivers being a live service game, but in a way that actually uses the fact it's a live service to make it a better game. You know, instead of the usual, which is basically just edge you out until you eventually decide that you can't take it anymore and for some reason you buy something. Okay, let's talk about the defense of Super Earth. For months, Arrowhead teased something big. The newest enemy, the Illuminate, was coming. They were, in fact, heading straight towards Super Earth. And with the latest update to the game, they arrived. And this was a truly massive in-game event. So what did players get? Well, what players got was huge new city environments, new mission types, new enemy variants, and a very clear system. Here's how the system worked. The attacking fleet of the Illuminate had limited resources. Over time, the fleet would destroy active locations on Super Earth, and this would happen at a set rate. Now, players could slow down that rate. They could also weaken the fleet by winning missions. Essentially, each day brought a group of locations for you to defend. Now that meant that the player base had to spread out. They needed to juggle defending all of them within the time constraints that they were given. And here are the stakes. Once a city was gone, it was gone. It was destroyed by aliens. There was no going back. Basically, this gave real consequences.
It's really
Previous
cool.
defense events have existed, but they would let players surge back. Players could retake lost locations. Not this time. If a city fell, it was gone. And you know what? This plan actually worked. Helldivers became the #1 game on Steam in the US that week. 3.4 million people played during the defense. That's all clustered around one single week. But here's the real proof. Before this update, players averaged around 2.5 million per week. That's 900,000 more players. And those extra players were not drawn in by new cosmetics. They were not drawn in by a purchase opportunity, by the fact that finally they could get a Porsche Macan skin for Diva in their Overwatch. It wasn't that.
Geez.
They came from the narrative.
What is with Sony and this Porsche, like, advertising? Like, it's just getting weird because, like, you see it in the Intergalactic slop trailer. Yeah, no, it's just weird seeing like the branding and stuff in some of these games. But I think what Helldivers 2 is doing is like it's actually really smart. Instead of trying to focus on like FOMO microtransaction nonsense or paid content, focus on something that's more gameplay related. It's going to draw a bunch of people in, and that's a very creative way to do it. So I give them props for that. I didn't even know about this. So
They came for the emotional stakes. They came for a reason to play. Now, in a way, it's still fun.
I will say, to add to that, doing something like this, when you have more feet in the door and more foot traffic coming in like that, I would imagine the mindset or the business decision into that probably was, well, if we bring more people in and we show this really cool thing and they're having all kinds of fun doing it, what are the chances that they're going to want to buy something because they're having so much fun doing this? They're going to see that shop and then they're going to want to buy something there. It increases that chances of them gaining money from that. So it's a monetization without an actual monetization up front. It's almost like a backdoor monetization scheme. So it's actually pretty smart. It's a lot of businesses do stuff like this. It's kind of like a, what is the term? There's a term for it, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's just a get them in the door kind of thing, you know. Give them a free drink and then show them the menu, you know.
FOMO, because the defense is over. Super Earth has been defended. But this time it's different. Players wanted to say, I was there. This could have been just another update, and it would have had the same pattern as always. Players log in, play some rounds with new enemy types, try new mission types, and they log out. And of course, when you look at Steam, we know that player numbers spike whenever new content drops. That is, of course, fairly normal. Sometimes players will come back later to do it all again with another update, and of course they do. We literally have got the stats, and Arrowhead, of course, gets to reuse the enemies and the locations. It's all got fairly typical by now. I mean, as an example, they've already expanded the city environments over to Terminid planets. And to be clear, those mechanical updates to the game do actually matter. Last summer is even a perfect example of it actually mattering, because even Helldivers players, they're okay with repetitious content. Even they get tired without new stuff to do, right?
I mean, it's like this for any type of live service, or MMOs especially see this. Like, you're gonna see your hills and valleys across your your content peaks and stuff like that. So I mean, you'll release some kind of new expansion or new content or new patch or whatever, and yeah, you're going to see a huge boost of people coming back. But then after a while, once people kind of get tired of it and they've done everything or gotten what they consider their worth out of it, they're going to leave and they're going to go play something else. I mean, you see this all the time. And so, and then unless the game is like pumping out something new every single week, you're not gonna keep that spike for very long. So I mean, it shows kind of like a trend. So I mean, you just look across the board. I mean, they're right at just under like 100K, like as like an average, I would say. So I mean, like, you've got this average here, you've got this average right along in here. So I mean, I'd say they probably like right around like, I don't know, 60, 70K, like on average, which is not bad for a live service game. But then again, that's just on Steam. And while you can't draw like a definitive answer from Steam, it's a sample size and it's an indication. So, I mean, it still works. You can still use it to, extrapolate the information that way. But like I said, it's something that plagues any live service game or MMO, whatever.
No new missions, no new weapons, no new upgrades. Guess what? Players leave. We see it in the Steam data. And by now, we're all very used to this type of development pattern happening with almost every game that we play. But you see, it's the context that's absolutely everything here. Players have got to believe something about Helldivers, and they have to believe it with no proof from Arrowhead. And if they don't believe it, the concept of the game falls over. What would happen if players did not stop the Illuminate? What would happen? Would it actually matter? Players basically had to believe the stakes were real. If they didn't show up, if they didn't hold the line, they would lose the planet. And if you want to know a secret, they actually could have. Super Earth could have fallen here. It's fairly neat how all of this shook out. Datamine footage shows cutscenes for if players failed. And the upshot of those cutscenes is that humanity would need a new HQ. Maybe they would have to retake Super Earth later on. Basically, it would have been...
Yeah, I would imagine like there was like the developers had like a secondary or like a backup type scenario. Because I mean, you can't just go into that with no backup scenario, because that would just be foolish and dumb. In the off chance that, players just said, well, let's just band together and not do anything and see what happens, that kind of thing wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, no, you'd have to have some kind of like contingency plan just in case. And I would imagine, it would be something just as similar as, oh, well, here's your second chance, try to take it back kind of thing. So I can agree with what Bellular is saying here. But yeah, no, there's no way they wouldn't have had some kind of backup or plan B or whatever.
Been a whole different story. And most of the players who played this did not know for sure how far Arrowhead would go, unless of course they looked at the leaks. But what matters here is they seemingly trusted Arrowhead not to cheat them out. Why? Well, they had seen how Arrowhead reacted before. As an example, remember when players saved a fictional children's hospital? What you might have forgotten is they chose that children's hospital over getting a new stratagem. Arrowhead honored their choice. They did not get the new stratagem. And Arrowhead had, of course, seen the mythos that developed around key battles. As an example, Malevolent Creek. That's burned into all of our memories. So basically, players believed Arrowhead took this universe seriously. And because Arrowhead took it seriously, players took it seriously. And if you want to know what player buy-in looks like, quite simply look at Equality on Sea. On a meta level, the ending seemed rather clear. The capital city, Prosperity, was the last location activated. Perfect timing, and it's also where Arrowhead are based. Narratively, it's essentially the perfect ending. But here's the thing about live service events. Players don't always follow the set narrative. For this,
No.
enter Equality on Sea, the megacity that is based on Shanghai. This was the last defendable city before Prosperity. And when Chinese players realized this, they went into overdrive. The city's defense rating spiked. Global players saw a story forming, and when they did, they joined in. Equality on Sea did not get weaker. Its strength spiked to 97.9783%, which is humongous. Now, unfortunately, the emotional buy-in has a little bit of a flip side. A badly translated mission objective confused Chinese players. They actually thought they could liberate their city. When they couldn't, well, Helldivers 2 got over 4,000 negative reviews on Steam. Those players felt cheated. They thought that Arrowhead, quote, broke the rules. They hadn't. It was a misunderstanding in this case, a mistranslation. This was an event that players couldn't win until defeating the Illuminate fleet. But it does show something important. The depth of feeling. The depth of feeling that this FOMO-powered event created in people. People believed in consequence here. They believed.
And I feel like that's something that could have been easily avoided if it's something as simple as a translation error, like a company is like this that's doing a live service type thing, globally, and especially like for something that's published by Sony, they should, definitely have the resources to be able to translate things properly, and there shouldn't be an issue of translation errors or translation discrepancy or whatever. So that to me kind of just it's kind of sounds like a cop out, but at the same time it could be used as just trying to place the blame wherever they can, kind of thing.
Their actions mattered, and when the dust settled, Arrowhead actually decided to respect that. The last remaining cities were Equality on Sea and Prosperity. We have to presume that Prosperity was the intended final city, and basically Arrowhead could not have predicted this. They could not have predicted that a bit of a mistranslation confused a whole bunch of an audience, leading to a spike in player activity. And of course, players themselves couldn't have predicted this, that it would go the way that it did. But now, everyone has a story. Everyone gets to pick up the pieces together. Arrowhead resets for their big next event, and they do so from a position of strength, having actually had something went wrong, but then the credibility boost of incorporating that into their story. That is actually quite powerful. That makes a game feel real. Though of course something looms over all of this. Is there another lever they can pull that's anywhere near this powerful? Because in this case, it was defending Super Earth. It was literally defending the entire thing that the Helldivers essentially exist to defend. That's a hard act to follow. But the thing that'll matter here is now players have got somewhat of a sense of what they will miss out on if they decide not to tune in next time. And now I'm going to make the largest point, the thing that actually matters, because when you or I think of a live service game, what do we think of? We think of store events, right? We see live service as a way of operation and a business model. And obviously it is those things. But this is it as a game. And this is what online multiplayer games can actually offer. And in a way, there are loads of stories of things like this happening. Some of them are not intentional, like the Corrupted Blood incident in World of Warcraft, the Falador massacre in RuneScape, the assassination of Lord British in Ultima, and then, of course, there's this as intended with EVE Online, and the countless insane stories. I mean, hell, even Fortnite sometimes gets this with its concerts and its narrative moments that are pretty damn powerful player engagement tools. Basically, they end up being events that players talk about for years, and if
I will say that even though I'm not a fan of Fortnite, and I have no interest in playing Fortnite really, I will say that they do a very good job at providing like these type of like live service game events and whatnot, like actual live events inside of a game. They do a very good job at it, and it's pretty interesting to see some of the live events that Fortnite has a tendency to do. But yeah, I still think that they're one of the best at it, even though might not be my cup of tea, but I can still recognize, where somebody's doing something really good.
If you missed it, you know what? That kind of makes the thing matter. if a new event is something that you can always access, is it going to be exciting when a new one drops? There is something to say about permanence, and if we want meaning in our games, well, if something is abundant, always accessible, how does it really end up having meaning? And if everything has got to be some little isolated, airlocked off thing, how can you have meaning? I mean, as an example, if a game is going to change because something happened, say an event like this, well, that means that the game state has actually got to change. Change means different than before. And it's something we've seen in PvE, where it happens naturally where devs can embrace it, like in EVE Online. But PvE is the one place where it's just never really happened. And that means that a PvE live service ends up feeling like it's all about crossovers and license deals to drive people in, of daily events, battle passes, login bonuses, all those things to drive retention. It all just means monetization, 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 but done in a way that tells a player, act now or lose your chance to spend.
Yeah.
This example shows us another way. You can still treat your players with respect. You can treat your universe with respect. You can give people reasons to return that are because your live game, your live universe is undergoing a pivotal narrative moment and is going to change. That's a reason to return that may correlate with spending, but is not about spending.
There's always different ways to go about stuff like this, and the ones that tend to thrive are the ones that tend to get creative with it. And this is a good example of, this is just a creative use of FOMO. That's not necessarily like, or primarily monetization driven, but more getting feet in the door kind of driven, you know? So getting people into it can lead you down the road of monetization, and you can still push for that. But I think the whole like just gameplay or story elements type FOMO, I think this is a great thing to see, and I really hope more games do more of this, because I think it's a great thing to see.
That is not a time-limited store banner event, because here's the ultimate difference. It's you being sold a world versus you being...
And frankly, I think people are getting burned out on all this, you know, FOMO monetization or store banners, as he says, and battle passes for battle passes, and battle passes that give you currency that you can also pay for, and you can pay to increase the battle pass, and it's just more nonsense, and people are getting really burned out of it, and they're just getting tired of seeing it, and it's the same old shit. And so usually most of these games that run this kind of stuff, it's like, okay, you're just doing the same shit that I've seen 1,000 other times. Like, what makes your game any different than the one I'm already playing? So, I mean, you're literally competing for other people's time. Why should they spend time in your game versus another game that they've spent, you know, hundreds of hours in? What makes you so special? So I think that's a big factor in it. It's just people are just exhausted and tired of it, and they'd rather just, you know, spend the money on a game that they actually care about.
Being sold a product. Sell me on the world, I will enter your world, and maybe I will buy some products. But when we're all talking about skins first, and banners first, and collabs first, rather than the game experience, that's when we've lost. That's when live service has consumed the game and just turned it into a cheap store. Not a case like this with Helldivers, where live service is not a dirty word, where it's actually elevated the game. So basically, hats off to Arrowhead. I'm keen to see how they top this one next time. And if you want another story, still is in the shooting genre, check this one out, because my god, Mr. Splitgate did not do the best marketing.
That was a good video. But yeah, I agree with him that there are better forms of FOMO that can work, and obviously this one did work for them. They saw a lot of success from it, and which is a really good thing. But yeah, no, you don't have to just use FOMO to try to sell something on your store page, or, you know, to try to drive up monetization, sales, and yada, yada, yada. So this is really good to see. I'm glad that, you know, finally seeing a game that's being more creative with it. And while I'm still not a big fan of the whole FOMO concept, I think in a live service game like this was a really good way of doing it. Obviously this kind of thing wouldn't work too well for single player games, but for a live service game, this is a really good indication of how to do said thing properly. So I give him props for that. Hats off to him. Good video. I'm going to go ahead and, like always, I will link the video in chat. So if you want to, give it a watch, like it, subscribe, whatever, go ahead and show some support.